Hi, and thank you for joining me for today's process video. And today is a very exciting day for me because I'm cutting into my Curiosities in Willow Grove by Vicki Boutin for 49er Market, and it is such a beautiful collection. It's definitely more outdoors rather than autumn, which I was pleased to see, and I'm using this to document 2 photos of us when we went over to Northern Ireland back in August, so not even for autumn or outdoors photos. We were in the Crown, which is a very famous pub in Belfast, and the kids were having their first drink there. We'd taken a trip over. It's the first time, for those who don't know, my husband's from Northern Ireland and his father passed a couple of years ago. So after selling the house, we haven't been back since. We've got no family left over there, just friends. And we've been sort of putting off going back over again because we knew it was going to be strange. But we planned this holiday, just a long weekend, and it was absolutely fabulous. So on the Friday, we spent the day around Bangor, which is where he's from, and then Saturday we got the train into Belfast. So we arrived at the Crown just after it had opened. It has these beautiful little booth seats, and we found one with just an older couple in there, and we asked if we could join them, and they were more than happy to. In fact, it was really nice to chat to them because they were from Scotland and they'd come over to see Marty Pellow, who's a Scottish singer who used to sing in Wet Wet Wet. So it was great fun to meet them and have a little chat. So you can see I'm cutting the papers up. I've used that base paper is my favourite paper in the whole collection. I think I need a whole packet of it. It's just perfect for me. It's got greens and blues in it, a little bit of text, and it has got a grid on the background, so easy to line things up when I'm matting and layering. I then chose the navy blue with the spots from the paper pad, and I pulled out another paper from the paper pad with all these cards on the background, cards printed on it, which I've cut out. They're 4x6 cards, and I'm using them to layer up the behind the photo, so to add to the mats. So I'm just working out how I want all these mats to go on the left, and I've also got a smaller photo on the right. So the main photo of James and Amelia was printed 4x6, and then the smaller photo was printed 3x4, and that was one that Amelia snapped as we were walking into the Crown, and I just love it with all the trees framing it at the top. So I wanted to get these photos on the one page. So I'm using similar papers on the right hand side to mat that I've got on the left. I wanted to bring that navy over to the right as well, and I'm just sort of working out how to put everything here. I want to use a stencil on the background just to bring a bit more colour in, and I definitely want to use my hexagon stencil. It's one of Vicki Boutin's stencils for a previous collection. Because we're in Northern Ireland, I try and put hexagons on my layouts. So I go to put the glue on on this piece, and then remember I want to stencil, so pull it up again, and I will bring the stencil in. And I'm using the new 49er Market dye inks. I've got Arctic Blitz for the navy blue, and Mint Chill is the paler green that I'm just putting on now. So I've just added a little bit of stenciling, and then I'm bringing the mat back in just to check that I'm happy with the positioning. And I realise I haven't brought it out far enough to the right, which is often the case. So I'm just adding a bit more blending here now. And once I've gone in with that mint, I am going to come in with that darker Arctic Blitz just to deepen things up a bit and add a different texture, I suppose. I much prefer it when you bring more than one ink in. I just like the blend that you get. So I'm trying to not be too precious about how I position the stenciling, and just making sure that I've got both colours blended across the page. So there we go, and I'm using the grid to line this up. And just checking with my T-square ruler that it's straight, and it's not quite, so I'm just having to peel things up to get it straight. And because of that grid, it is fairly obvious as well, so just wanted to make sure it was down. And then I'm just roughing up the edges with my fingernails. I didn't want to use my edge distresser because I didn't want all the white and the paper dust, but I just wanted to create definition between the layers that I've got going on here. I also want to bring in some of the beautiful rub-ons in the collection, so I didn't want to create too much texture before doing that. So just about all those edges curled up now. And then I can bring in that right hand piece. So that's going to sit roughly a little bit lower than the left hand photo. So again, I'm just bringing in some blending of the two inks around the edges of where that's going to sit. So just bringing it back to check that I'm happy. And I want it to go across the top as well a little bit. So just bringing that up, and it's easy to match this stencil. So you can have a continual pattern right the way up the page if you wanted to. So that's down. Again, distressing all the edges with my fingernails. Just very quickly. Like I say, it doesn't add too much texture, but just enough to create that definition between each of the layers. So here are those beautiful rub-ons. I spotted this one in the middle with the lace, and then that, it looks like a piece of masking tape stitched on. So I want to use that on the left of the photo. I'm just trying it down there, but it's too big and I didn't like the look of it coming right the way across to the other photo. So I decided to pop it down the left here, and it's going to go straight over that pink paper and onto the navy. So it's very subtle in the end, but it really does look beautiful on the page. Couldn't find a tool. These don't come with a tool, so I ended up with my weeder from my silhouette. But just using the curved hook was absolutely fine to get that stencil, that rub-on down onto the page. So there's that one, and then I'm just looking to see what else there is, and straight away I spot this green one at the bottom, and it's very Art Deco, which is like the interior of the crown. So I'm just adding that across the bottom of the photo of the crown, and the green goes really nicely with the signage on there as well. So this is one of the most, if not the most bombed pub in the world. It's opposite the Europa Hotel, which is the most bombed hotel in Belfast. My father-in-law used to work in insurance in Belfast City, and they got very good at determining where the bombs were going off as he worked there. It's hard to imagine living like that, really. So I wanted a title from the rub-ons as well, so I just chose this So Good. It's green with little dots on it, and it's just beautiful. These rub-ons are amazing. So I'm just popping that down to sort of bridge the gap between the two photos, really. And you'll see how I bring the rest of it together with some other bits and pieces. So again, just using that hook to rub this on. I shouldn't have left all this in, sorry, I thought I'd cut some of it out. So just rubbing as I go, just to make sure that it's all on. And there we go. So this compass was previously die cut from some of my scrap papers. It's one of the Hey Little Magpie dies, and I'm just going to use that as an accent in the bottom left hand corner there. And now I'm going into the, I think it's the titles, the journaling pieces maybe? Yes, the journaling pieces. And I'm just going to see what I can find from these. Straight away I spot these brackets, so I think about putting them around the title, but in the end that doesn't quite work for me, and you'll see how I change things. I found this piece that says smile, so I'm thinking about popping that on the compass. And then this one that says happy, and that does end up staying on the page, but it moves around a little bit. You'll see as I go. I've also popped a tab at the top of the page, and once again that's going to be changed once I find something else more suitable. I find this clip that's got the number 2 on, so I think that's perfect because it's a picture of by 2. And then this arrow, and that's another piece that's going to bring those two photos together and bridge that gap between the two. So that's just going to sit underneath the title there. And then this book plate says things to remember, and I'm going to pop that on the left hand side of the photo in the end. Again, I was very indecisive when I was making this, so it takes a little while to put everything together. So here's where I changed the book plate, the tab at the top. I just like this one more, and I was trying to make that bulldog clip work, but it wouldn't, so I switched that out for a green ticket. And then I find this word phrase that says every picture has a story to tell, so I pop that down the left hand side of the photo, and then that happy banner is going to go there above the title. So I'm just going to start gluing a few of these bits down, so that arrow is going down underneath the title. And then this compass, and you can see how that arrow sort of pulls everything together, the way it's staggered underneath that title. And then here's the compass, and I will put something on top of that in due course. And then that lovely word phrase, because I want to tell the story about the couple who let us come and sit in their booth with them. So there's the paper clip going on. Managed to get a bit of glue on the photo, but just rubbed it off, it was fine. And then this tab is going to hold my date in due course. I use my roller date stamp for that, as I always do on my layouts. And here's that book plate. And just as I stick it down, I find another label to pop behind it. It's a navy one again, but it just gives a little bit more definition because it's plain rather than having all those spots behind the book plate. So I'll glue those together and get those down onto that little cluster there. Trying it on the left and then realise that it's definitely better on the right. So just using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to get that stuck down. So here's my roller date stamp, as I mentioned. So I'll pop that on there before I forget. And then glue this happy banner above the So Good title. So now I'm going into the 6x12 stickers to see what I can find on here. I just need a few more bits. I just feel that it's a little bit empty at the moment. So I'm going to grab this magnifying glass with the heart on it, and that's going to work really nicely on that compass. So I'm going to mount it up onto foam pads just to create a shadow and a different height on the page. And I really like how that turns out. One more. Just want to make sure that it's not going to bow in the middle. And then there it goes down on there. So now my journaling, and I just explain how we ended up in the Crown so early, because we had intended to go to Botanic Gardens, that's Amelia's request, but it was shut for the Mela. So we just made our way straight down to the Crown. So another phrase strip that was too long to go on this smaller photo, so I cut it in half, and it just says, take the moment and make it perfect, and that's exactly what we did. I had such a wonderful day that day. I've got a few more photos that I want to document, so no doubt you'll see those coming up very soon. So just making sure that I'm happy with the positioning. I want to butt it up against the left hand side of that photo, so it just takes a little while to work out that that's what I want. And then this little arrow sticker that says good stuff, and I thought that worked nicely as the beginning of a cluster above the photo there. So there were some little yellow stars on the sticker sheet, and I'm just painfully deciding where to put them. I seem to put them everywhere but where I want them to go. But I've got 3 just to create that visual triangle. And they're top left, bottom left and top right of the 2 photos, and that draws your eye around and makes the photos the centre of attention. So now onto the laser cuts, and I'm just seeing what's on here, and there are these gorgeous tickets with the black and white string going through them. So I'm going to use one of those in this cluster here, and I'm also going to pull out one of those tickets that you can see on the left hand side of the screen there, the navy blue one, just to bring the navy blue up into that corner as well. I try the pale blue, but it just sort of fades into the background really. It's pretty much the same colour as that matte that I've got going on, so I switched that out for the navy, and that's much better, much more striking. I'm going to cut it in half because there's only need a little bit showing, so I've got the other half for another day. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this process. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to dig into this collection a lot more. There's an awful lot of it. I'll see you soon. Bye.